everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and of course I am joined by Todd McDougall of Winnipeg Alternative Media from my old stomping grounds. Good to see you again, Todd. All right.
Always great.
And, you know, one of the first things that WHAM did back in 2013 was the fight against fluoride, hydrofluosilicic acid, byproduct of aluminum and phosphate mining, and it's very dangerous to our health. For those that aren't aware, it's not medical stuff that you find in your toothpaste, it's industrial. It's a byproduct of smelting. And it's incredibly bad for your health. It causes all sorts of horrible neurological problems, bone problems, etc. It does not kill cavities. That's the excuse the state gives in order to fluoridate children, which is sick. And we did a lot of work trying to get rid of the fluoride in Winnipeg.
Tons.
I mean, there's so many other cities out there that did so much work and were able to accomplish it. But Winnipeg tends to be a more apathetic place a lot of the time, and it's hard to get people out. But we got a lot of people out, and it was quite a showing. But just recently, Todd, you did a human rights complaint, and I got the magic papers right here. You sent this into the Human Rights Commission. Can you go into what this was about and the response they gave?
Absolutely, and thank you very much for the opportunity to do so on a different platform other than just my own. Although I shouldn't say that because really it's
there's a lot
we
of
started it together. There's a lot of collaboration, and so it's just so important to get this message out as strong as we can through as many platforms as we can. Is that we do have a lot of proof and evidence now that the government and that anybody standing for even basic human rights is not willing to listen to basic science. And we have the proof. That's what the proof of this is right here. Is we sent them, well, we had to go through different avenues. And Trevor Adams, who was a part of helping Winnipeg Alternative Media start, like like you just mentioned, when we
launched in March 1st, 2013.
That's right, that's right. And even when we first had our inaugural event at a local establishment here in Fort Garry, we were all about helping Fluoride-free Winnipeg continue its fight while helping us even. They lended a hand to us to launch WHAM. And that's where we all came from. That's where this all came from. And it's been an incredible journey to go from where that started off, where they were at a huge height of their fight, and they had local politicians and local media listening to them. And when we put rallies out on the street at that point in time, we had they were varying in their following and in their reception, but they were still notable and they were still worthy of continuing to do. And we then even got to the point where we put out a class action lawsuit trying to circumvent using lawyers by using other people who understood the law well enough. In current day, it's called Free Men on the Land.
It was a beautiful thing, though. Countless, I mean, I wouldn't say countless, but for Winnipeg, a lot of people showed up, and seeing all those people come together against this, obvious issue that everyone's facing. It's forced medication. It's in all of our water.
Absolutely.
Even if you don't drink it, you get it in the shower through your pores. It's a huge problem.
And I'm sure you remember yourself, too. Like, when we were out there on the streets, we would see the people honking endlessly. It doesn't matter that we had a group of maybe like 10, 15, 20, I think at its most, maybe 25, 30 people, which I know seems small, but we would have so many people honking. We would have so much, we would even have local media coverage. We would have people coming out with cameras, and all things continued to move in a forward fashion. And then all of a sudden, and this is what I've complained about recently for you Winnipeg Alternative Media followers out there, I put a report about this out like no more than a week ago, is that the drop-off in what this information means and how well that so many Winnipeggers know, because we know that they know, right? Because we've had their support. We've been on the street with them, that it's fallen off to a next to zero. And we've even seen what's his name? Falcon Ouellette.
Falcon Ouellette.
Who we have interviews with when he was in the mayoral race a couple years ago, talking openly about the fact that he actually knows the science.
His mother fought against fluoride many years earlier, and what was incredible was, well, he didn't win the mayoral race, but he became an MP within the Liberal Party, and he was one of their young rising stars, and it took about no time for him to just forget the whole issue, and it doesn't surprise me at all.
So I guess really in the end, he disavowed being able to care properly for what he knows is an active poisoning of the population. And he knows, like, go look at our YouTube page, go research back into it where you see us interviewing him, and he will speak openly on the fact that he read the science, he listened to his mother, and he understood that exactly what you started off this report by, with saying that it's not just medical sodium fluoride, it's hydrofluosilicic acid. It comes from phosphate and aluminum mining industry. It's toxic, it's corrosive, it eats through concrete if left to sit there, on and on and on. And he was aware of this, and when he became a Liberal MP, he just, of course, forgot about everything. And so you would have to imagine, and I said this about a week ago, that he's actively okay with poisoning his own family, his own loved ones, his own constituents, and on and on and on. And so that's what really wanted to make me, alongside with this human rights complaint that we finally had to come back to us, and I'll put a word out to anybody else that wants to do this. And by the way, I'll beg of you to do this. If you would like to go out and put a human rights complaint forward, whether it be your scientific belief, whether it be your spiritual or religious belief, if you're talking about water fluoridation and the science that we can talk about and prove and probably even help link to here in this discussion, then by all means, please do so. But I'm here to say that even some of the same people involved in government that know the same things disavow it when they know the truth, and we have video record of that. So you're going to get shut down.
That's just average reality of the state. I mean, I personally, I can't expect the government, which is behind this vast conspiracy, and it is a conspiracy because facts are out there and they continue to do it, that is in essence by definition a conspiracy.
Exactly.
But when they are doing this, I can't expect them to solve the problem of what they caused, because we know how the government runs. It usually creates a problem, you get a reaction, the solution creates another problem, and repeat for eternity, and that is exactly how they operate. But Todd, you took a big step in at least attempting taking a step forward and actually getting something done about it. So what did the Human Rights Commission, the Manitoba Human Rights Commission, say to you?
Okay, it's extremely comical actually here. I'll take a little bit of a closer look at it so I can show the viewers myself as well too. First off, a good friend of ours, Trevor Adams, who we mentioned already earlier in this report, who has been involved in this fight for longer than we had, and we came together to really want to build it. Sadly enough, a lot of his followers then fell off the bandwagon because I guess they felt that the alternative media was going to handle all their responsibility for them, which is sad, and I've continued to beg Winnipeggers to get angry about that.
Another example of why you have to be independent and do things yourself, right?
Yeah, but
never depend.
But I still don't understand why good people with a good heart and mind still just run away anyways.
It's sad.
Oh, the guy with the more expensive cameras is going to do this, so I'll just sit in the back. And that's stupid.
That's the same thing as, oh, well, you know, we'll just elect Justin Trudeau and get him to do things for us while we sit back, you know, wash our hands of all of it and just hope for the best and hope that he does all the things that we're too apathetic to do anything about. And then, you know, we end up with more problems. And that is, in essence, exactly how we end up with this situation in the first place.
That's right. So the problem with apathy, even in the truth and alternative media, is a growing problem. And it's one of the reasons why we might even see ourselves run into other problems like Google, YouTube, and the ADL. But that's a whole separate conversation, though. But apathy creates that problem, and apathy has recreated and continued on this problem with forced medication here in Winnipeg. So me and Trevor Adams, who have been fighting it for years and years, decided to take another step, and we decided to want to go back at the Manitoba Human Rights Commission for the fact that different people with different spiritual and religious and even physical beliefs about the way their own bodies should be treated by truth and honesty and what that means to them. And so we chose different routes, and we wanted to put the word out to them. We sent them a book. I wish I had it here right now. I should. It's about this thick of scientific information and documentation from multiple different bodies of science that's been backed up for well over 20 years. And we made sure to send them every single one of their offices and beyond that exact same gigantic book. And so they had the choice to read it, and they had the choice to really seek truth in what we were presenting. And instead, because we were looking for an open door by speaking about more spiritual and religious beliefs and how our beliefs and how we should be able to properly disavow what's being lied to us about as our own still religious freedom, which the country of Canada is supposed to stand for. It is basic human rights. That's why we spoke to the Human Rights Commission on what that means to us and how we should then be allowed to say no and stand against it. And what they basically did in the end of all of this, look, and they have all of this actual paper document. It's a waste of paper. What they did is they wrote down and typed out everything that we said to them, as if they have a fun little script of how they want to prove us wrong.
Wait, you're telling me that the green commies wasted paper?
No,
you don't say.
My God, unbelievable! Like literally, all of this is like, look, this is like several pages thick. All it is an exact scripting of what me and Trevor said to them. So then at the end, they can offer like 2.5 paragraphs to say about what they disagree with and what does not equal a proper human rights complaint in their eyes. And what it boils down to. And I'll just speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for Trevor because he's not here. And I have spoken to Trevor about this, and he's very upset about the outcome, of course, is the same as I am. But what they basically stated to me was that if I didn't go church to church as a Christian, and you know, I wear a cross, I am a Christian, I read the Bible, that doesn't have to do with the science of water fluoridation. And if you go watch the live interview that I have posted up on YouTube, and on our Facebook page as well too, of course, about how I spoke to them about kind of being a little upset about that. Look, the open door for me saying I'm a Christian man that wants to understand that that means that I don't want to be lied to, and I want to understand the truth of what's being force medicated to me, doesn't just mean that I can only speak about it in that way, because that makes me look like an idiot. I'm speaking about the science, and I'm speaking about the fact I've done the research. I'm not trying to speak as if I'm just like putting my hand on the Bible and saying I disavow water fluoridation. No, I tried to speak. We sent them, like I said, a textbook like this of real science and real historical backup and documentation about what this fight is really worth. How many people of good science backgrounds have written books on it, filmed documentary movies on it, have helped people in other cities win their battles against this exact same fight.
Well, I mean, I spoke to, and this goes to show that you don't have an excuse, folks. Those that live in Winnipeg that are watching this, I spoke with the man behind getting fluoride out of the water in Kelowna, British Columbia.
And it's a great interview.
And he did it with the help of a 102-year-old woman.
That's right.
Or I think her name was Alberta, like the province.
And what else did he say? He was like, if you get like 50 to 75 people to really just rail hard for just like a few months in a row, you have a good chance of winning.
Exactly.
And nothing here in Winnipeg still. And we were close to that mark, and we had so many people even on social media joining that conversation intelligently, not just joining on a bandwagon. Like, they had science. They were looking for links and research themselves. And it's dropped off to zero.
Well, I think it's interesting that, of course, human rights aren't infringed by, you know, the body is your temple. As you mentioned, you're a Christian. And if you are to poison that temple, then that is obviously a human rights infringement. But in Canada, the term human rights is very sketchy. It's subjective because, of course, it's based in the Charter of Human Rights. And the Charter is a corporatist document that is, again, subjective. They don't have to, you know, guard those rights and liberties. Those rights and liberties can be easily disavowed or thrown out the back door.
So I kind of guess it's great that we have this document now, because it stands for proof of that.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm trying to get the word out about it. And I thank you very much for letting me do so. Yeah. Because it's so important for people to understand that this is really the end of the conversation of true values. Even the way you believe about your own self and your own temple. You could have as much as you want. You could have as much emotional backup and as much heartfelt emotion and science and documentation into it, but the corporate government, the corporate New World Order, is going to shut you down because they believe that your body is now chattel. You are to be dealt with as they see fit. And this stands as the strongest document I've ever seen personally in that, where they literally told me, if you don't have enough word by enough priests, then you haven't backed up your so-called religion, and that's it. And let me point out that in the real true history, I guess, in the Corporation of Canada, which I disavow as Christian, they would call themselves pro-Christian, which is really, really an interesting point. Although I would never want them to because they're horrible Christians. But still, so this is what they would pretend to stand for, is a lot of what we tried to put out here in this complaint. And in the backside, nothing. Absolutely. Basically, sit down, shut up, realize you don't even understand the right steps because we'll never teach them to you. And if you want to complain about what you think is so worthy of complaining about, then you're going to be sitting at the back of the bus.
Well, and essentially, this could affect both sides. So, of course, it affects every single individual living in Winnipeg. It affects the companies that export water, beer, whatever. But also, it's important to mention that we're going to have some people on the right and people on the left and some people outside of that collective pyramid or whatever you want to call it. And for those on the right, this is an infringement of property rights. This is an infringement of individual liberty. For those on the left, this, well, first of all, I'll bring you back a little bit. None other than Adolf Hitler put fluoride, hydrofluosilicic acid, in the water at the concentration camps. So if you're going to rally against Nazis, well, it's a good place to start. So I want to bring it to people on this kind of level because I know there's people from all different sides, people on the right who will say, well, oh, there's those crazy environmentalists again, and then people on the left that say, oh, there's those crazy right-wing conspiracy theorists again, because of course there has to be a label for everyone today instead of just common sense and, you know, not working up emotion, but actually looking at the reality of how this affects us, how it affects your baby, which is, I mean, there's children being brought up in this, and long term it can have a severe effect, even short term to those with weaker gene pools. And the fact of the matter is this will affect you if you drink the tap water, if you take a shower, if you take a bath, if you go to a public pool, if you do any of that. This is a massive taxpayer expense as well. And if people want to put an end to this, Todd, how can people get involved?
Well, that was a great run over of some of the science, and I just wanted to point out also that there is the studies and the research by Dr. Connett, by Dr. Jim Beck, by
Dean Burke from
Dean Burke from the Cancer Institute, the University of Harvard as well too, all talking about what it hurts in the IQ of babies, how it really affects the soft tissue. So a mother's womb is impacted, and how much infants are impacted as well too, and also how much that our soft tissue is affected. See, it's taught to us as some sort of teeth cleaning situation, and you drink the water or you bathe in the water and it has nothing to do with your teeth. It's affecting your soft tissue. And if you can understand what we're talking about by it being hydrofluosilicic acid, brought to you by the phosphate and alumina mining industry, and from their smelters, and how that it eats through concrete. And there's news stories where people in hazmat suits had to clear out factories because they spilled some.
And it kills tons of fish because it ends up being dumped into rivers and water.
That's right. And you know, and I also want to speak to the whole what corporate fascism means in this world as well too. Well, this is one of the heights of corporate fascism, because this is literally from back in the 1950s. The governments from all around the world, and thankfully enough, a lot of them have turned the table and gone against it, and refuted the old science and listened to their populations. But Canada is still lacking strongly in that, and Winnipeg is a big player in that. And it was done by protecting those major industries so they didn't have to pay out too much to burying it, because they couldn't burn it in the smokestacks anymore, because burning it in the smokestacks was killing off livestock and foliage from around their factories. And so then they decided, well, we have to get rid of it in a different way. And government said, well, no, don't pay too much to bury it, because that's going to cause another problem. How about, because it has a fluoride ion in it, and we're already using fluoride in the new Colgate thing, and Colgate was a new thing at that time too, and Colgate bought into the fluoride thing. You can go watch a great report from Trevor Adams several months ago on that, how Colgate bought into the whole fluoride issue and helped pay it forward. Then they just said, let's use the fluoride ion in this toxic chemical mix to make it look like it's basically your new friggin' toothpaste in the drinking water. And then all governments just hopped on board with that, and a bunch of horrible people in their ranks got paid money for it. you know, to just turn a blind eye and to put forth false representation and false science to continue on this thing that's now been going on for like 75 odd years. And it's really ridiculous. So it does need to end, and it's equaled so many different hardships in our species, really. You know, and I'll also mention Calgary has eliminated. Vancouver has eliminated.
Well, I wanted to actually mention, Todd,
Kelowna.
It's interesting that they talk about cavities, because the cavity rate in Toronto, which is fluoridated, is worse than Vancouver's per capita. And also just mentioning, you were talking about the fact that they're basically just taking this waste and putting it into water. It's interesting because there's a lot of aluminum in that, and aluminum is one of the #1 causes of Alzheimer's, and Alzheimer's is going way through the roof. So
and this is possible links to autism and other neurological diseases that are just completely ramping up like you would.
You don't want to take the risk to have shiny teeth. You can use other things to make sure that you have clean teeth, guys.
Baking
it's not
soda, non-fluoridated toothpaste. Talk to your dentist and ask him to do other things to your teeth, because you do have that option. Most people want to push that you don't, or that dentists are going to be so clownish that they'll laugh at you and not listen to you.
I mean, there's enough demand out there that now they have fluoride-free toothpaste and everything. And you know, the medical grade fluoride isn't even as bad as the industrial stuff. It's still bad though.
Yes.
And you
but
know,
if you're not swallowing it, then you're okay.
Well,
for the most part.
Just don't use it too much. You might get fluorosis. But I mean, it's interesting though that so few seem to get on the bandwagon against fluoride, and we hope that we can push it more in the direction of actual action, which is why I say, people, if you are against forced medication, which I don't know why you wouldn't be, then please get on board with what Todd is doing here. Todd, I guess it would be Winnipeg Alternative Media at gmail.com.
Absolutely. And I will quickly answer what you had last asked me there. Sorry, I went off on a tangent, but I'm known for doing so. It's just such a wide topic, and it goes into so many different other great areas of freedom, of just, you know, your own self and your own sovereignty, and anyhow, and your own health. But yeah, so what we're looking for here, and what I'm talking about, and what I want to re-spark this conversation for, is because I know there's a lot of Winnipeggers out there. We were with you. We stood on the streets together. We engaged the mainstream media. We had coverage. We were there. We were live time, and we were doing it right. And I don't know where everybody's gone. And I don't know why you would think that this fight is all of a sudden not a fight anymore, because the city is not going to slow down on this. And what I guess the next thing we have to do is we're going to have to go take a look at the cancer and the dental fluorosis and the other, neurological diseases that could be possibly related to water fluoridation here in Winnipeg.
And they judge
and start to prove the point again.
Yeah, absolutely. They judge the amount that's in the water by the lowest point too. They find it where it's at its lowest and say that's how much is in the water. It's far more than they say.
We just drip it in, and so nobody's going to take in too much of an amount. Well, this is the worst thing about human rights and stuff, and it even goes down into the Hippocratic Oath. The Hippocratic Oath, I mean to say, is that medicine is not dealt with in that fashion. You can't just say, I drip something into a large water supply, and therefore I can control the dose. So it's against the human rights, it's against the Hippocratic Oath, and therefore dentists and doctors should be standing up against it, and they should be wanting to research. And so this is what we want to push. We need more people back on board, as I pushed for now for the last couple of years, once it all died off, and I don't get why, is that we need to get back on target with knowing that we're a city at the crux of being able to have this conversation really come to fruition, and to let it just die down into nothingness, and to let it pretend like it's okay to continue on with it is an insult. And we have politicians that even know about it, and they are lying dormant. And so it's our job to wake them up and to shake them as much as we can. And it's our job to get back out on the streets again. It's our job to engage our city councilors and our local bullshit corporate mainstream media and just say, hey, listen, we were already doing this, and we got to do it again. And if you want any links if you want any better way to represent what we're talking about here, please come contact me or Josh. We will set you up with everything you need to know. There are so many documentary films, so much research, so much history, so many incredibly good men and scientists that have helped defeat it for cities larger than Winnipeg. We can do this. I'm getting kind of sick and tired of saying it, but we can do this. And it doesn't take 10,000 people. It takes maybe 100 or 200. And it takes us being vigilant for like maybe 6 months. And we can really turn the tides. So what I'm asking for is the fact that I have the proof that your government is not going to listen to you. And it's time for us to buck up and do the work again. Because we used to be able to do the work and we were getting close. And now we're left with trying this avenue. And this avenue is a liar's game. It's not going to work.
Absolutely. And you know, just finishing it off, I just want to quickly point out that, of course, the Antifa crowd in Winnipeg that likes to, you know, confront people for putting on an event against state-run media, even though state-run media is a fascist thing in the first place, because government and corporation hand in hand is the epitome of fascism. Go against this actual fascist practice of government hand in hand with the aluminum companies putting toxic fluoride in the people's tap water and poisoning them. That's fascist.
Absolutely. And I was hoping you were going to mention that the day before our fun little event here tomorrow. So absolutely, exactly. And that's kind of what I mentioned it before earlier for. Yeah. You want to talk about fascism? Go talk about how they force medicate and poison you. And then go wear a black mask on the street and just beat up random people because you think you're cool. And great. Coward. You won't even have a clue what you're talking about. You want to go stand against fascism? Look. Go try some real work. Go do something good for yourself. Go buck up against the establishment and actually speak to them one-on-one. Put your life, put your name on the line, put your research and your time and your blood, sweat, and tears on the line, and go really do some work instead of wearing a black mask and pepper spraying women and people in the eyes and backing off to everybody else as soon as you don't have anything else to stand for.
Yeah. Quit virtue signaling and, you know, just trying to be trendy, and actually go and walk the walk and actually understand what you are getting into, because what so many of the people within the Antifa movement is doing is they're just watching TV, they see something on TV, they regurgitate it, they feel like it's fashionable to be against it, they look cool to their friends because they're taking a stand against something that they don't even know how to explain. Yeah. This is just absolutely pathetic. Yeah. Start speaking up for actual issues that affect everyone instead of looking for more ways to extort the populace and shove us all into vast divide, and will eventually be conquered that way.
Well, I've really got curious lately. Like, I don't get it. How is it that these same individuals don't understand the lengths that government and an actual fascist government, the lengths that they've gone to poison them? What, they don't believe in any of that? They don't believe they've hurt the medical industry?
Todd,
they don't believe in that's just like, oh, we can't have that. We can only have wanting to go back to Maoist China. We can only have wanting to go back to old school communist Russia. Because that's cool,
Todd.
But we can't have that governments were poisoning us. Oh no, that never happened.
This was written about by a man who happened to have the name Orwell, who once said, "War is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength." And that's what the world has turned into right now, and we're seeing it on full display. So thank you, Todd, for talking with us, and we hope you guys go to Winnipeg Alternative Media on Facebook, winnipegalternativemedia@gmail.com as well. If you want this information, you can come to me as well, and let's work on something. The people of Winnipeg need this. They're being poisoned, and it's about time we get together and actually do something about it, or else what are we here for if we're just going to stay apathetic and wipe our hands of any actual real individual responsibilities?
And let's do a sign off with me. Also, of course, find both me and him Twitter, Instagram as well too. And we are
Prairie Truth.
Now to sound like an auctioneer. Thanks for watching, everyone. Check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so vastly demonetized and censored by YouTube as they bring in the Anti-Defamation League to flag all of our content as hate speech. Also check our Bitcoin address in the description in the comments, as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And don't forget to check me out at Josh Sigurdson at steemit.com. That's steemit.com, the future of social media, where you get paid via cryptocurrency, Steem that is, by the upvote and demand of your post. It's bound to take out the dinosaur social media, so I hope to see you there. But until next time, check out this word from our sponsor.
Are you looking to exchange a large amount of US dollars? Don't overpay with the bank on currency exchange. Think outside the bank. Banks charge unnecessary fees of up to 3%. Truth be told, currency exchange with the bank will cost you hundreds to thousands of dollars. Start saving now. Step 1. Register online. Visit our website and click Get Started. Step 2. Book a transaction. Phone us for a quote and to complete the transaction. We'll need to know which currencies you are converting and how much. Step 3. Transfer of funds. Once you confirm the transaction, we initiate an electronic funds transfer from the account that you choose. Your purchased funds are then transferred back to you in the account that you choose within 1 business day. It's that easy. Start saving hundreds of dollars on currency exchange with CBCE. Sign up online or give us a call today.